Made with Spoken. The Entitled Kid, a motivational short stories for kids series. By Crystal Morgan. Digital narration. Performed by Brittany. In the heart of a vibrant city, where wealth adorned every corner of every street, a spirited young girl named Kara lived a life resembling a fairy tale. Each day was like a new adventure waiting to happen. Kara's existence was rich, filled with experiences that most kids her age only dream about. Her luxurious room in her family's mansion possessed all the latest comforts and expensive toys that money could buy. But beneath the surface of her adventures, the roof over her head, and the food on her table were just some of the things she seldom took the time to appreciate. If you're thinking, leave her alone, she's just being an average kid, you might want to reconsider. Kara had no desire to be average. Whenever her parents surprised her with a gift, she would arch an eyebrow, huff, and say under her breath,
"Seriously? Is this the best you could do for me?"
Her behavior was the definition of ungratefulness. She always wanted more and was never content with her lavish lifestyle, which made her parents take notice. Little did Kara know that there was a time when her parents were not always well-to-do. When they were young and starting a new life, the newlyweds had very little money. Their lives were a perfect example of humble beginnings. Sometimes food was scarce, and buying anything new was rare. They lived in a small apartment in a low-income neighborhood and were fully aware of life's struggles. But years later, everything changed for them. After all their hard work and determination, they launched a business that blossomed into a multi-million-dollar company, and the world around them transformed. Kara's parents promised never to forget where they came from, even though they could buy anything they desired with their newly acquired wealth. Kara found it hard to relate to her parents' stories about their lives before she came along. Because she grew up in a world where others gave her everything, she lacked empathy for her parents' experiences and showed no concern for their promises. In her eyes, their pasts were merely that. The past, conquered by her sense of entitlement and the comfort of her privileged life. As she grew older, if Kara didn't get her way, that sense of entitlement crept in. Her ungratefulness became a defining trait of her personality. Although her parents vowed to give her all she longed for, Kara never learned the one thing they vowed never to forget themselves: gratitude. Now troubled by the person Kara was becoming, they were ready to show her where their story had begun. The moment had arrived for Kara to explore the place that shaped the essence of her family, which is why they are the remarkable people they are today. So her parents called in a favor. With the help of friends still living in the old neighborhood, they booked a flight and packed their bags to return to the place they had called home many years before. Kara's parents wanted her to experience this trip as it would have been without their money. They were confident that it would be a difficult and unforgettable journey, yet they anticipated it as a chance to teach Kara a lesson in genuine appreciation. When Kara boarded the plane, aggravation consumed her. This trip was Kara's first time flying on a commercial aircraft, as she was used to her parents' private jet, so her attitude was on full display. When she boarded the plane and requested a smoothie, the flight attendant informed her they didn't serve that kind of beverage. To make matters worse, she had to sit in the middle seat between her parents instead of her preferred window seat. Then, a family with a crying baby sat in front of them. The plane couldn't land fast enough for Kara. She wasn't used to flying on a plane with so many inconveniences. When Kara and her parents stepped off the plane and into the bustling airport, Kara felt the surrounding tension. The passengers rushing to their gates, each on the brink of their own adventures, annoyed her, and she felt she shouldn't have to deal with them. But this was just the start of what awaited Kara beyond the terminal doors. This trip would prove to be a world she was unaware existed. They exited the airport's sliding glass doors and stood at the curb. Kara, sporting a charming straw beach hat decorated with a pink ribbon, turned to her parents with narrowed eyes.
"What are we waiting for?"
she asked, irritated by the entire situation.
"I thought we were going to a beach resort. Is another flight to the resort scheduled for tomorrow? Are we waiting for a limousine? Does that mean we're taking a private jet?"
Kara's voice was irritated as the cold, brisk wind seemed to cut her exposed face with the biting cold of a winter day. Kara's unsettled expression said it all. The cold weather made her want to return home to the warm weather that she was used to.
No, a limousine will not be picking us up. We've arrived at our final destination, Kara. This town is where your mother and I grew up. Our friends live here and are on the way to pick us up. We would like you to meet them. We haven't seen them in years. Your mother and I have also arranged to stay with them for a month while we are here,
Kara's dad said as he waited for his friend's arrival. Kara took a long blink, and when her eyes reopened, they were as wide as golf balls.
Did you say a month, Dad?
Kara asked in disbelief. She wanted to make sure she heard her dad correctly.
Yes, Kara. An entire month. Your mom and I haven't seen our old neighborhood in years. We wanted to surprise you.
Kara stood on the airport's curb, dumbfounded. It was unimaginable to spend 1 minute, let alone 1 month, in such a godforsaken place. Just as Kara was about to voice what she thought was her well-deserved opinion to her parents about this trip, a modest car pulled alongside the curb, honking its horn to grab their attention. Kara's parents waved at the slow-approaching vehicle while Kara's mom jumped up and down, clapping her hands together. The man driving the modest car pulled along the curb, quickly opened the door of his vehicle, and hugged Kara's parents as if it were no tomorrow.
David and Clara! Oh my goodness, it's been ages since you've come home. A phone call with you doesn't capture the joy of seeing you in person,
exclaimed the short, stout man, his voice brimming with excitement.
And this must be Kara. David, she looks just like you. I remember when you were born. Give your Auntie Cam a hug.
The woman on the passenger side of the modest car exited and ran towards Kara with her arms extended. Kara attempted to back away as the sturdy woman scooped her off her feet and gave her a tight bear hug. Kara frowned as her feet dangled in the air.
I'm Kamara, but you can call me Auntie Cam, and this is my husband, Doug,
Kamara said, pointing her finger in Doug's direction.
We have known your mom and dad for many, many years. We grew up with them long before you were born. They've kept in touch since they left and have always been there for us. They are like family,
Kamara said, releasing Kara back to the ground.
Just call me Uncle Doug. Yes, they are family. Your dad and mom are both wonderful people,
Doug said, giving David and Clara an affectionate hug. David and Clara hugged him back and didn't let go. Kara saw that her parents loved and respected these people.
Oh yes. Okay now. Enough of the hugs and kisses. It's freezing out here, and I'm sure you guys are cold. Our weather differs greatly from yours,
Doug said as he rushed to help David with the luggage. The group piled into Doug's and Kamara's modest car and exited the airport. As Kara entered the town, she started to really understand just how far from home it was and how much this neighborhood differed from where she lived. Abandoned houses and cars, run-down storefronts, and shabby buildings with pieces of wood on the windows distinguished the streets from the ones she was used to seeing from the window of their private car back home. Graffiti on buildings and some abandoned houses seemed to be everywhere. The consequences of years of neglect were clear. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, and to be honest, Kara felt a little scared. She moved closer to her dad, who sat deep in thought, staring out of the window, reminiscing about his life here years ago. Kara sensed his sadness, but also sensed he somehow missed it.
Things haven't changed since you guys left 30 years ago. Well, maybe it changed a little,
Doug said in a joking tone, but it changed to a hint of seriousness as he cleared his throat and looked into his rearview mirror. The modest car pulled up to a modest home, and when they exited the vehicle, Kara looked around at the run-down neighborhood. She couldn't believe she had to stay here for a month.
Dad and Mom, can I talk to you briefly?
Kara pulled on her dad's coat, motioning him and her mom to the side so Kamara and Doug wouldn't hear her.
Mom and Dad, I'm not staying here for a month. There's no way,
Kara whispered with a defiant tone.
Give it a chance, sweetheart. Your dad and I haven't been home in years. We need this. You need this.
Clara grabbed Kara's face.
Please, try for us.
What could Kara say? Her parents had given her everything she had ever wanted. She could not say no. Anyway, what choice did she have? She definitely could not get back into the car and drive herself home. For a moment, she wished she hadn't rejected her parents' offers to teach her to drive around the grounds of their home on the golf cart. Perhaps then she might have made a mad dash for the modest car and driven herself back to the airport to escape this awful situation. Kara sighed, grabbed her backpack from the trunk, and walked towards the house, pushing away the thought with regret. Walking up the stairs to the front door, Kara noticed the house was the nicest on the street and possibly in the entire neighborhood. Inside, it was tidy and comfortable, although small. It was nothing like the mansion Kara and her parents lived in. Kamara and Doug showed her to the room where she would be staying. To her surprise, she was standing in it. Kamara told Kara she would sleep in the living room on their couch, which was also a sofa bed.
You'll be sleeping here, Kara. David and Clara, I'll see you to your room right down this hallway,
Kamara said, smiling as she walked toward the small hallway. Kara's parents strolled toward their room, and Clara blew a kiss in Kara's direction. David winked his eye at Kara and followed Kamara down the hallway. Kara gave her mom and dad a pleading look, almost as if her eyes were asking them to rescue her from some unknown creature. Kara glanced at the small living room. The tiny home was far different from her own home, and she knew this would be a miserable experience.
They are serious about staying here. Unbelievable.
Kara said under her breath as she sat on what would be her bed for the next month. The following day, Kara awakened to whispering in the kitchen a few feet from her uncomfortable bed.
We've arranged everything and it's all planned. They're expecting her today.
The place opens around 7 o'clock in the morning. Everything will be okay. She needs this.
Kara heard Kamara and Doug whispering to her parents as she pretended to be asleep. Confused by "the place opens at 7 a.m., she tried to listen closer but failed and drifted back to sleep.
Kara, wake up. Kara, get up.
Kara opened her eyes to her mom's refreshed, round face, smiling at her and shaking her shoulder.
Okay, Mom, I'm up.
Kara said, annoyed at hearing her mother's voice this early. She looked at her Apple Watch and saw that it was 6 o'clock in the morning. How dare her mom have the nerve to wake her this early? She never woke up before 7, not even on a school day.
Okay, well, get up, Missy. We have things planned for the day.
Clara smiled at her daughter.
What could you possibly have planned for me in this dump of a town?
Kara asked her mother. She placed her pillow on top of her head and didn't want to hear anything else her mother had to say.
You'll see. Now get dressed,
Clara said, hiding the aggravation she felt from Kara's unkind words with the vigor in her voice. She pulled Kara's covers off and nudged her out of bed. After getting dressed, Clara, David, and Kara got into the modest car and drove through the neighborhood, stopping at different places around town. Kara slid down in her seat, hoping to avoid being seen in the compact car. But hey, none of her friends would be caught dead, let alone alive, in a town like this.
Oh, yeah. And this is where I met your mom? She was walking out of that store, and I was walking in, and I bumped into her and knocked her soda out of her hand.
David said, smiling and pointing toward a small neighborhood store.
Yes, I remember that day. You were embarrassed. I was so mad at you.
Clara said, finishing the story.
Your dad then said he would buy me another one. I thought you were kind of goofy, but you were cute. You quickly bought a case of soda from the store. When your dad opened it, he handed me one out of the case and offered to walk me the rest of the way home.
Clara reminisced while laughing and looking at David. It was kind of cool for Kara to see where her parents met, although she would never admit it to them. They spent the day driving around the area and seeing other places where her parents grew up. With each stop and accompanying story, she realized her parents didn't have an easy life living in this town. They had it tough but managed to beat the odds. Kara was glad they were determined to escape this mess of a town. She didn't think she could have survived growing up here. Next, they pulled up to a light-colored building with no windows and one brown door on the front with a gate. No signs showed the building's function, leaving Kara confused. After her parents had parked the car and gotten out, Kara remained inside, puzzled by where they were going. David and Clara realized Kara didn't get out of the car, so they motioned for her to open the door and follow them towards the building. Rolling her eyes, Kara reluctantly exited the car and followed her parents into the mysterious building. Once they entered, They approached a desk with a man in a security guard suit, sitting with a bored-as-ever look on his face.
We have an appointment with Miss Smith.
David said, smiling at the guard, who then looked in a book and signaled the family to follow him into one of 2 doors behind him. Kara's puzzled expression questioned what her parents were up to. So far, this trip had been nothing like she expected, and now her guard was up.
Hi, you must be the Lamberts. I'm Miss Smith. So nice to meet you. We're so thankful that you're here with us today. I've heard many great stories about you and your generosity in the community. We appreciate what your family has done for us here at the shelter. You've helped us tremendously with your consistent donations.
Mrs. Smith said, smiling while still shaking David and Clara's hands.
And you must be Kara. I look forward to working with you for the next month.
Ms. Smith said, extending her hand towards Kara. Ignoring Mrs. Smith's hand, Kara said,
Mom? Dad? What's going on here?
Well, we wanted this to be a surprise for you.
Clara tried to explain, her eyes glancing at David and then back at Kara.
Your dad and I thought it might be an excellent idea for you to volunteer some of your time here at the shelter, since we'll be here for a month. And...
Oh no, Mom and Dad. Are you serious right now? You can't be.
Kara interrupted her mom mid-sentence.
Could you give us a moment, please, Miss Smith?
David said, embarrassed by Kara's behavior.
Sure. Take as much time as you need.
Ms. Smith shifted her body uncomfortably as she forced a smile and walked away from the family.
Dad, I will not do this. You guys have gone too far.
Kara fumed with anger.
Why are you doing this to me?
Kara pleaded with her parents.
Kara, listen to me. Your dad and I had a long talk, and we decided it's time for you to see what real life is like. We feel you're too comfortable behind our mansion doors. We want you to see how it was before we got all this money.
Clara touched Kara's face gently.
And there's no negotiating this. You will volunteer here every day from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. for 1 month. Now, if you don't do this, when you get home, you will not have the luxury of your phone, tablet, computer, gaming equipment, and any other luxury item you hold dear to your heart. You need to learn appreciation, and this will show it to you.
David's voice was stern when he addressed Kara's defiance. Kara didn't say a word. Her parents saw tears streaming down her face. How could you do this to me? Was the only thought in her head. Unfortunately, Kara was stuck, and she could do nothing about it. With folded arms, Kara followed her parents through another door next to the security guard. They entered a big room that resembled a gymnasium. Kara saw children of all ages. Some were running and playing games, some were eating, some were playing cards, and others were reading books alone.
What is this place?
Kara asked, with a mix of disgust and curiosity in her voice.
It is a shelter for people who don't have a home, and this is where they come to eat and sleep. They have nowhere else to go. It mostly consists of women and their children, so they don't allow men. However, they have made exceptions for some single fathers and their children in dire circumstances, as they had nowhere else to go. But it's rare.
David explained to his daughter. Kara's face softened a little. She couldn't imagine not having a home. She looked around and saw children her age and younger. It made her feel sick to her stomach.
Dad, please don't make me do this. Mom, I don't think I can handle it.
Kara pleaded yet again to her parents.
Kara, it's for your own good, baby. Make the best of it. We want you to learn from this experience.
Clara wiped the tears from Kara's eyes. Kara stood defeated as she wrapped her mind around the fact that this would be her life for the next month. Kara arrived at the center early the next day, just as her parents had promised. She wasn't sure what to say to these kids. Kara knew there was no way she could relate to any of them. Just as she was about to leave the shelter and take the punishment her parents promised to give her, a young girl with a scarf around her head approached her and smiled. She was about Kara's age and said,
Hi, I'm Tina. Are you new to the shelter?
Tina asked Kara, her voice soft and innocent.
No, are you kidding me? I'm just volunteering for the next month. My parents are making me,
Kara said defensively.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Well, I live here and think it's the best place in the world,
Tina said to Kara, while smiling and twirling around in a circle, performing a ballet dance in front of Kara.
Well, maybe for you, but I can think of a million places far better than this dump.
Kara's tone was haughty and full of self-importance. Tina laughed.
What's one person's trash is another person's treasure, I guess.
She giggled again, holding her hand over her mouth.
Let me show you around. I'm sure I can change your mind.
Her smile was too cheerful for Kara to resist. Kara was reluctant, but followed Tina around the shelter. Tina showed her everything from the kitchen to the playground and the playroom. She also showed her the homework room and the cafeteria, where they had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Kara looked around in amazement at all the people who lived there. The children seemed happy, and the parents talked amongst one another. The atmosphere was calm and peaceful. Tina introduced Kara to families at the shelter, starting with Kathy and her mother, who had lost their home due to her mom's job loss. Next, Tina brought Kara over to the twins, Corinne and Colleen.
They used to live on my street,
She said, a bright smile on her face. Winking at them, she added,
I thought I'd never see them again, but to my surprise, they were here when we moved in.
Tina hugged the twins. As they continued their tour, they met Dawn and Tammy, who had lost their home in a fire.
This is Dawn and Tammy,
Tina said, then turned to Kara.
Oh, I didn't catch your name.
It doesn't matter. I won't be here long enough to get to know anyone.
Kara replied, her irritation growing. Dawn and Tammy exchanged glances and walked away, whispering about Kara's attitude.
It's okay. I know you have a long day ahead, so I'll keep the tour brief,
Tina said, taking Kara's hand.
Now I want to show you my room. Well, it's not only my room. My mommy and I share it with another lady and her daughter, but it's my room for now.
Tina opened the door and revealed a small room.
Shh, be quiet. My mom hasn't been feeling well, and she's resting,
Tina said with a whisper as the door creaked open. Kara's eyes scanned the room. She could not believe 4 people shared such a small room. It was neat but tiny, and Kara couldn't help but notice a woman with a scarf tied around her head sleeping on a small bed meant for one person.
Where do you sleep?
Kara said in a low voice, trying not to wake the woman.
Sometimes, when my mommy is feeling okay, I sleep with her, but when she's not, I sleep on the floor. It's okay though. I want my mom to get well and be comfortable.
Tina's voice was soft as she watched her mother sleeping. Kara did not know Tina well, but one thing she sensed about this young girl was that she had a good heart. Kara did not quite know what to say. She was speechless for the first time in a long while.
Come on, let me show you the rest of the place,
Tina whispered and closed the door, grabbing Kara's hand. For the next month at the shelter, Kara and Tina spent their days getting to know each other, laughing at stories on social media, and playing games. Tina made Kara's time at the shelter more tolerable than anything, and they became great friends. Kara noticed a shift in her mood when she arrived at the shelter. She looked forward to seeing Tina, who waited for her at the shelter's entrance to plan their day after Kara's volunteer work. Tina inspired Kara by her ability to be thankful for the small things, even after losing everything she once had. Watching the children managing their daily lives under extreme circumstances made Kara's heart soften toward her volunteer experience. She was not sure she could handle their struggles if she had to walk a day in their shoes. On Kara's last volunteer day, when she arrived at the shelter, Tina was not there waiting for her as usual. Kara ran to the kitchen, the playground, the playroom, and the homework room, but she still could not find her friend. She ran to her room and knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Kara gently opened the door and saw that Tina and her mother's belongings were no longer there. She ran to the office, looking for the shelter's manager, but the office was closed and the lights were off. Kara felt a nagging feeling that something was wrong, and she wanted to know what had happened to her friend. Just as she was leaving the office area, she heard a woman say, "Are you looking for the Reese family?" Kara turned quickly toward the direction of the voice of a woman who was sweeping the room. The woman continued, "Tina and her mother?"
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Do you know where they went?
Kara felt relieved that someone knew their whereabouts. The woman said, "I think you better have a seat." The woman explained how Tina and her mother were sick with a debilitating illness because of tainted water in the home where they used to live. A billion-dollar company, whose building was behind Tina's house, allowed a toxic substance to seep into the water supply, contaminating the water in neighboring homes. She told Kara that Tina and her mother had to leave their home and move into the shelter because of the poisonous water. Tina and her mother could not live there anymore and could not afford to live anywhere else. They had no family, and the shelter was the only place they could go.
They both are in Heartland's hospital. Tina relapsed for the worse, and we just got word that her mother, well...
The woman dropped her head, unable to finish the story. The woman often saw Kara and Tina together and thought Kara should know. Kara's eyes welled up with tears. She could not believe what she was hearing. Tina was sick all along and did not even mention it to her. It was all too much for Kara to handle. She ran out of the office into the gymnasium area and towards the door. As Kara was about to exit, she ran into her dad's arms. When Kara saw her dad, she could not hold her feelings of grief in for a moment longer. David hugged his daughter, not saying a word as she cried in his arms. Kara wept, burdened by her selfishness and guilt for having a good life while others did not. How could she not know her friend was going through so much pain? Later at the hospital, she stood by Tina's side with a heavy heart. Kara stared at Tina lying unconscious, surrounded by the sterile environment, the hum of machines, and the tubes connected to Tina's small, still body. She softly held Tina's hand. Kara lowered her head, closed her eyes, and turned away. A wave of embarrassment washed over her as she reflected on how she had behaved when they first met. She regretted not being her best self then, and wished she could tell Tina how much she admired her strength. The doctors entered the hospital room and informed Kara and David that Tina could be released in a few weeks. Kara had hundreds of questions to ask the doctors. Where will Tina go? Who will care for her? What about Tina's mother? Kara understood that life without her mother would devastate Tina once she left the hospital. She was the only family Tina had, but now she's gone. The next day, when Kara and her parents prepared to board their flight home, Kara barely slept the night before. Her inner voice urged her to stay, filled with worry for Tina, who had nowhere to go. Kara walked down the tarmac stairs to their private jet. An unexpected reluctance washed over her, and she paused before climbing the steps to enter the aircraft.
Mom, Dad, we can't go home yet. We can't leave Tina. She has no one. It just wouldn't be right,
Kara said. Her feet could not move another step.
We cannot get on this plane. Dad, please?
Kara wasn't sure what had changed within her, but she found herself embracing the transformation. David looked at Clara, who gently smiled at Kara's change in attitude. David's compassionate smile made Kara feel more at ease.
Okay, I'll see what I can do, sweetheart.
Kara and her parents found a way to help Tina. After many months and piles of paperwork, David and Clara's positive influence in the community helped them get custody of Tina. The Lambert family flew back into town and leased a long-term home for Tina, taking care of her through her most challenging times. They hired the best doctors, nurses, and home healthcare professionals to aid with Tina's care. Clara, Kamara, and Doug devoted themselves full-time to help Tina. Meanwhile, Kara flew back and forth to see her friend between breaks and holidays from school. Kara and Tina never missed a day of speaking to one another, calling each other several times a day, and they became much more than best friends. They became sisters. Sadly, Kara knew it would only be temporary as she watched Tina's illness progress. Despite the heavy burden of her condition, Tina never uttered a word of complaint. Instead, she radiated resilience, inspiring the hospital staff, the community, and Kara with her strength and positivity. Kara's outlook on life underwent a profound transformation as she observed Tina's strength while battling her illness. She realized inner character is what matters most in life. Her helpfulness increased both at home and in the neighborhood where her parents grew up. While in town, she freely gave her time volunteering at the shelter. Kara now embraced being thankful for the simple things. One day, Kara was sitting next to Tina's bedside. It was an emotional moment for Kara to watch someone she cared for suffer. She asked Tina,
If you had one thing you wanted to do, what would it be?
The room held a comfortable silence. Kara loved how Kamara and Clara decorated it for Tina.
My mother's wish was for us to see the ocean as a family. She told me she was saving for it after we found a new home,
Tina said with a weak smile, remembering her mother. With great care and her parents' help, Kara arranged Tina's trip to the ocean. It was just what Tina needed to lift her spirits. When they arrived at the beach, Tina sat on the cool blue sand. She gazed out at the horizon, her heart swelling with emotion, and her memories filled with thoughts of her mother. Tina closed her eyes, inhaling the breeze as it filled her lungs, sensing time had paused at this perfect moment. Kara glanced at her friend in the distance, and she understood that their time together was precious and nearing its end. She walked down the pier and sat beside Tina on the sand. They sat in silence as they listened to the sounds of the wind and the soft crashing of the ocean waves. Following the trip, doctors readmitted Tina to the hospital. This time, her illness progressed to its final stages, and she never left. Kara was by Tina's side through her last moments, and when she thought about the reason Tina and her mother endured so much pain, a determination swept over Kara that she could not shake. Kara stared at her friend's motionless little body and vowed to one day set things right for her, Tina's mother, and the countless others affected by what had happened to them. Motivated by Tina's memory later in her adult life, Kara did what she had promised. She graduated from law school, and although it took years and she faced setbacks and challenges, she became one of the most decorated attorneys in the country. You may wonder what her specialty was. She prosecuted cases for those who were often voiceless and unable to defend themselves from selfishness and greed, those like Tina and her mom. Exiting the courtroom, Kara walked over to her mother, who was sitting on a bench outside, waiting for her. Clara's smile on her face said it all.
I have never been so proud of a person in my life. You did good work, Kara Lambert,
Clara said as she hugged Kara.
Your dad would have been so proud.
She stared at Kara, remembering the days when she was a little girl.
Thanks, Mom. Yes, he was such an awesome inspiration to me. I miss him so much.
Kara smiled, hugging her mom again.
When I get back, we'll take that well-deserved vacation, okay?
Kara said, winking her eye at her mom.
Okay, you got it.
Clara returned the wink. Before planning her vacation with her mom, Kara had one thing to do. She booked a flight to the place that changed her life forever. It was a place she had once hated, but now has learned to love. When Kara landed, she remembered the day she first visited here. It was cold and, in her words, God-forsaken. In the taxi, she saw things had not changed much. She remembered sitting next to her dad on their first ride into town and the look he had in his eyes. She now carried that same look.
I'll be brief. Could you wait? You can keep the meter running,
Kara said to the taxi driver. Walking over, she laid flowers on 2 grave sites.
Hey, Tina. I did it. I finally got justice for you, your mom, and everyone hurt by that company's carelessness. I made sure they would pay. I wanted you to know I donated everything I earned to this shelter in your family's name. And I just wanted you to know how grateful I am to have met you. You changed me for the better, and I'll never forget you. I return to thank you and to say that I miss you, my beautiful and sweet friend.
Kara wiped her tears and smiled, walking away with renewed peace. She will never forget the love she found in a small town. A town that transformed an unappreciative young girl into a woman who ultimately grasped the significance and power of gratitude. Moral of the story: sometimes the people who have less and the ones who are going through the most are the ones who have a greater appreciation for life. Learn from them, for they are the ones who may one day show you your true purpose. Do you remember times in your life when you felt like Kara? Or are you more like Tina? What are you grateful for in your life? Understanding the value of gratitude is an important lesson from which we can all benefit. When we appreciate what we have, we lead by example and become happier. When you feel you cannot appreciate anything in your life, think of some of your friends, classmates, or people in other parts of the world who may not have the same privileges. This awareness may help you feel a greater sense of appreciation. Try and take a moment each day to reflect on some things in your life for which you're grateful. And remember that gratitude is not just about receiving, but also about giving. You might be surprised by what you receive in return.
Hi, this is Crystal Morgan. I would like to personally thank you for listening to my second published book and the Motivational Short Stories for Kids series, the entitled Kid. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope it sticks with you. Additional stories by me are available in the same collection. Thanks again for listening.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.